Look at this client's hair. It is so beautiful and healthy and luscious. You wouldn't even believe that this is how her hair looked when she walked in. Her hair is super, super dense, and each individual hair strand is thick. To eliminate the tangles, I saturated her hair with our Nourishing Lipid Serum. It nourishes the cuticle layer and it calms it so that the hair naturally detangles. I sprayed the Nourishing Lipid Serum onto her hair and I let it sit for 4 minutes. And then I went in with a wide tooth comb and my fingers to part the hair and to prepare it for the relaxer. Instead of the typical 4 sections, I'm subdividing those sections even further because her hair is so dense. I'm creating 8 separate panels so that I have better control during the relaxing process. Because her hair is so long and so dense, I'm twisting the hair into Bantu knots so that I can isolate the various sections and only work on those panels of hair that I'm ready to work on. Look how beautiful her natural hair is. The only reason I'm giving her a relaxer is because she has so much hair, it's difficult for her mother to control it at home. This is a perfect example of a natural hair color level 2. I mentioned it before, but her density, that's how many hairs per square inch, is super dense, and the diameter of her hair strands is also thick. When dealing with textured hair, what matters is the density and the diameter. That's what we use to determine the strength of the relaxer, the developer for hair color, and the strength of bleach. Our hair curl pattern is easily changed. Every time we blow dry, flat iron, shampoo it, our curl pattern changes. When you're getting into chemicals, what matters is the diameter of each individual hair strand and the density, how many hairs per square inch. We're getting ready to get into this virgin sodium hydroxide relaxer. Yep, I said sodium hydroxide relaxer because I'm a professional and I use professional products. No-lie relaxers, they were created for consumers, and then they were available at retail, Sally's, and professionals start buying from Sally's, and then manufacturers start making for consumers, and it's just a vicious cycle because no-lie relaxers really damage the hair. If you want to get silky, smooth, straight hair, you've got to use a sodium hydroxide relaxer. You know the drill. Apply the protective Vaseline around the hairline. Apply a liberal amount of the Nourishing Lipid Serum. Do not apply the relaxer on the scalp. Apply it 1/2 inch to 1 inch away from the scalp. In this session, I'm using the Motions Classic Formula Relaxer, sodium hydroxide, in the super strength. I'm using super because her hair is super dense and each individual hair strand is thick, and this is a virgin application. I begin the application in the back, in the nape, and I work my way up. Throughout the process, really on any relaxer process, you should leave approximately 1 inch around the hairline. That's in the front and the nape that you save to the last of the processing before you apply the product. The hairline is typically finer than the rest of the texture of the hair. I'm going to say that one more time. The hairline, whether it's in the front hairline or the back nape, is typically finer than the rest of the hair. So because it's finer, you want to wait until the end of the processing before you apply the relaxer product. I added this elevation diagram so you can be intentional throughout the application process and hold the hair at the proper elevation so that you don't smush the relaxer product and the hair into the scalp. My intention is to relax and straighten, break some disulfide bonds in the hair. I don't want to do anything to the scalp. Our skin is our body's largest organism, and our scalp is a part of that. And you don't want to put any caustic chemicals just sitting on the scalp unnecessarily. When no-lie relaxers came out, they're not as hot as the sodiums, and they're not as irritating to the scalp. So stylists and consumers at home, they were applying the no-lie relaxers directly to the scalp and letting it sit. Sometimes for hours. I've even seen professionals who will put a plastic cap over the no-lie relaxers and then just sit their clients. Can you imagine all of those caustic and toxic chemicals going directly into the scalp? Even though the scalp isn't burning, that doesn't mean the hair and the scalp is not being damaged. I'm applying the sodium hydroxide relaxer 1/2 to 1 inch out from the scalp. I'm holding the hair at a 90-degree and a 45-degree angle. I'm using my fingers to distribute the product. I'm applying it to the top side of the hair as well as the underside of the hair. You want the hair to be completely saturated with the relaxer product. I'm also avoiding the ends for now. This product has a pH of approximately 15, which is really, really caustic. What it's doing is it's going into the cortex layer. That means it has to cause the hair strand to swell. And when it swells, then the relaxer product can get in there into the cortex layer where the disulfide bonds are. And once the product gets into the cortex, excuse my French, all hell breaks loose. There is an explosion. And that explosion is termed lanthionization. Lanthionization. That is a chemical process where one of the sulfur atoms that sit on the disulfide bond is eliminated. I'm using a brush to apply the relaxer product, not a brush. Brushes can be very aggressive to the hair strand during the chemical process, right? While we're relaxing, breaking bonds in the cortex layer, the hair is very fragile. And oftentimes, applicator brushes can have abrasive bristles and it could damage the hair. So I always use a brush during the chemical process. You can buy the brushes on our platform at beautywellnesshaircare.com. I continue applying the product, working my way up, applying the relaxer product to the top side, the underside, and then using my fingers to distribute the product. You never want to comb through hair with a chemical relaxer on it. The hair is too fragile and it will break. Remember, what's happening is we're causing the cuticle layer to swell. The caustic relaxer product is going into the cortex layer. It's exploding and it's killing off sulfur atoms, which turn disulfide bonds into lanthionized bonds. Now, this is a sodium hydroxide relaxer, but the chemical process is the same whether it's a no-lie or a lie. And actually, the whole no-lie phrase is just marketing hype because all relaxers have hydroxide in them, which is the lie. Sodium hydroxide relaxers straighten the hair evenly from root to tip or wherever you apply them, whereas no-lie relaxers straighten a section of hair, skip a section of hair, straighten a section of hair, skip a section of hair. They're considered non-hot. That's why you leave them on a long time or put a plastic cap on them, because what clients and stylists are trying to do is get the no-lie relaxers to function and straighten the hair like a sodium relaxer straightens the hair. No-lie relaxers leave the cuticle layer rough and uneven because it doesn't straighten evenly. That's why after a no-lie relaxer, you have to use foam and mousse and gel and silicone. What you're trying to do is smooth the cuticle layer and make it look silky because it's not. No-lie relaxers will never leave the hair silky. I'm continuing the application process in the front left section. I'm applying the product 1/2 to 1 inch away from the scalp. This is a virgin application, and I'm also avoiding the ends for now. I'm being intentional throughout the application process. I'm holding the hair out at 135, 90, and 45 degrees so that I keep the chemical product off of her scalp. Oh, I had them drop in a picture of the brush. I guess it's a combination of a spatula and a brush. The tip is made out of silicone. We have a whole kit with several brushes. They have one that you use around the ear, one that's super wide if you want to run through it really, really fast. You'll really like this kit. You can buy it on our platform at beautywellnesshaircare.com. There's so many things you can do with the sodium hydroxide relaxer. You can control the breakage of the disulfide bonds. It could be super straight or just wavy. With the relaxer, with the sodium hydroxide relaxer, you can shampoo and go. You can air dry depending on how many bonds you break and how many you leave in there. It's really good for clients who want to go natural, but their natural hair is just too tight. You could never go natural with a no-lie relaxer because it doesn't straighten each individual hair strand evenly. So it's always going to make the hair look frizzy. There are so many options out there now for us to control our hair texture. In the past, there wasn't a lot. You either had a press and curl or you got a relaxer. Do you remember when you got your first relaxer? I remember my first relaxer. I was in high school and we didn't have the internet back then. So Essence magazine was everything. And Revlon Realistic, they had a promotion going. They had a coupon in the magazine that you could take to the stylist to get your hair done at a discount. Even then, my mom didn't have the money for me to go to the hair salon. But my best friend, Evelyn, her Medea gave her the money and she got the relaxer. It was so amazing. It wasn't until I got into beauty school that I got my first hair relaxer. And that's when I was in high school. You know, back in the day, they had vocational training programs in high school. And I hated high school. Anything to get me out of going to class. So I signed up at Jerry Lee's Beauty College when I was in the 11th grade. And by the time I got to the 12th grade, I was finished with beauty college and graduated early from high school. And when the fall came, my mom enrolled me at the University of San Francisco. After college, I worked for all the manufacturers, Soft Sheen, Matrix, Redken. There was a company out of Michigan, Minnetonka. I had such a blast in marketing, new product development, sales. I traveled all over the country, all over the world. And I've been doing relaxers for a very long time. Remember French perms? Remember Optimum? Yeah, I was in the room when Optimum was developed and it changed the game for relaxers. That's when everybody wanted to get in on that black dollar, right? And companies that traditionally didn't even sell to black distributors wanted to get in the game, and they all introduced relaxers. And they took them straight to the street, to the consumers, and that's when the no-lie was born. Sodium hydroxide relaxers were professional only. You can only get them from one of the big distributors somewhere. You couldn't go, there were no Sally's, there were no Korean beauty supply stores. You can only get professional products from professional distributors. Because sodium hydroxide is a caustic product. It's lye. It can eat through your clothes. It can eat through your countertop. It can eat through your skin. And that's why I wanted to create this virgin sodium hydroxide relaxer video. I wanted to make sure consumers and stylists really understand the chemical process that's happening when you apply the relaxer, whether it's a lye or a no lye. The structural, the chemistry of what's happening is the same. The pH level of the relaxer is up to 15. That causes the hair to swell so it can get into that cortex layer where the disulfide bonds are. There's a sulfur atom sitting on the disulfide bond. The explosion causes the sulfide atom to go away, and that's the process of lanthionization. Now we're going into step 2 of our virgin sodium hydroxide relaxer application. Okay. We're going in and we're going to apply more relaxer to the hair shaft. And now we're going to pull that relaxer all the way through to the ends and apply more product. Why are we doing that? Because the hair absorbs the relaxer product. And we want the hair to absorb the relaxer product. That's how it gets in there and does its thing. The bigger, the thicker, the coarser the hair is, the more product you need and the longer you leave it in there. We're going to continue applying the product 1/2 inch away from the scalp. And now we're going in with the ends. The reason we're leaving it away from the scalp still is because of the scalp's hot zone. Now, you know our body emits heat, and that heat is trapped within our hair up to 1/2 inch from the scalp. And that heat will cause whatever chemical product you're working with to process faster than the rest of the hair shaft. Does that make sense? Because of the heat that our scalp emits, it causes whatever chemical we put there to process faster than the rest of the hair. She's been wearing her hair in braids, and you know how those young girls are. They're not real careful when they take their braids out. So there was some breakage on the ends, and that's the main reason, because the ends are thinner, finer, and more fragile. I'm waiting until not the very end, but almost the ends before I apply the relaxer product to the ends. You don't want to over relax the ends. That can cause breakage. I dropped in this diagram to help you understand what's going on. Those black lines, that's the hair shaft, and you can see the bonds in between the disulfide, ionic, hydrogen. You can see on top of the disulfide are 2 sulfur atoms. Right when the relaxer product gets in there and explodes, it knocks off one of those sulfur atoms, and that changes a disulfide bond into that new lanthionized bond. What we're really doing during the relaxer process is we're restructuring the disulfide bond. We're changing the disulfide bond by removing one of the sulfur atoms. That's why when you're relaxing the hair and you're shampooing it and you smell sulfur, right? That's because the whole process is getting in there and blowing up some sulfur atoms. Now I'm applying more product and dragging it through to the ends of the hair. You want to make sure that the hair is saturated with the product, because the product really does the work. It's a fallacy to think that you need to rub and smooth and use a comb, use your hands to straighten the hair. Really, once you use the appropriate product for the hair diameter and density, then the product does its own thing. Like I said, it's a chemical reaction, and what I'm doing right here with my hands is smoothing the product, making sure the hair is encased in the relaxer product. I'm not really trying to smooth to break bonds. I'm smoothing to make sure that the hair is encased in the relaxer product, so the product can be absorbed and get into that cortex layer and do its thing and break bonds, which will result in straighter hair. And the catalyst is the pH level. Relaxers are between 12 and 15, 16 on the chart pH level. This relaxer is approximately 15 on the pH level. That pH causes everything to happen. That's what's causing the chemical reaction that's destroying sulfur atoms, that's straightening the hair. It has nothing to do with you smoothing the hair. With no-lie relaxers, the client as well as the stylist, they think they're improving the product. They think they're making the hair straighter by smoothing it and by making it set longer. But there's nothing you can do to a no-lie relaxer that's going to leave the hair silky and smooth. No-lie in their chemical structure does not straighten the hair evenly, and that's going to leave a rough cuticle layer and uneven disulfide bonds. And like I said before, that's why with no-lie relaxers, they're always using foam and gel and mousse, trying to get a smooth cuticle layer so that the hair looks silky. When you've destroyed the cuticle layer, so just leave those no-lies alone and go right into the professional sodium hydroxide relaxers. That's the only relaxer that's going to give you a silky, smooth cuticle layer. Moving on to step 3 of our virgin sodium hydroxide relaxer. We're using the Motions Super Classic formula in a super strength. Now we're going in and we're going to apply the relaxer to the roots at the hairline. We're going to apply some more product to the hair ends. I'm going to outline each section of the hair with more relaxer product. I'm not applying the product to the scalp. You have to use enough relaxer product. For her density and hair diameter, I used 2 15-ounce jars of relaxer. I continue applying the product. I'm outlining each section as well as going in and applying the relaxer product up to the scalp, not on the scalp. Remember, we discussed the heat zone, that 1/2 inch out from the scalp, that natural heat that our body emits. I'm not applying it on the scalp, I'm applying it up to the scalp, and that natural heat that our body emits will cause the relaxer product to melt, and it will distribute itself onto the scalp. The additional body heat will also speed up the explosion of the relaxer product within the cortex layer, which will help that hair close to the scalp straighten out quicker than the hair shaft and the ends. Now, this is a virgin relaxer application, so we apply it to the mid shaft and ends first, and then we work our way up to the roots. When it's time for a touch-up, it's just the opposite. A touch-up is just that. You're just applying the relaxer product to the new growth. You never drag the relaxer product through to the ends. We don't want to destroy all of the disulfide bonds. That would make the hair disintegrate. We want to judiciously remove or restructure the bonds so that the hair has a looser curl pattern and the hair is easier to comb, style, and maintain at home. This client is going to middle school. I would never give a relaxer to a child, never to anyone under 13, 14 years old. The hair has not finished developing yet. So like I see some clients and moms, they'll apply a texture kit, some kind of hydroxide relaxer to the hair, whether it's no lie or lie, and the hair hasn't even finished forming. Just like the child's teeth, toddlers, their full grown teeth haven't even come in yet. And it's the same with the development of hair. I dropped this structure, this diagram on top so we can get a really good look of the hair. The image on the right is a diagram of the hair. You see at the bottom, you see the cuticle layers. Yeah, more than one layer, cuticle layers. And then into the cortex layer. And inside the cortex layer are little round bundles. And in those bundles are all of the keratin associated proteins. And within those bundles are disulfide bonds. So this is where we are inside the cortex layer, knocking off some sulfur atoms so we can straighten the hair and restructure the disulfide bonds. The placement of the relaxer product is very important to the outcome and the health of the skin and the hair. But the best thing to do if you're doing it at home is to get a friend, your sister, your mom, your neighbor, and you guys can exchange hair care services. Because it's impossible to get your hair done properly in the back, right? To apply the chemical to the hair in the back without overlapping. Sure, you can relax your own hair in the front, but it's the back that's the challenge. Our hair grows approximately 1/2 inch a month. Now, some hair, especially when they're younger, it grows even faster than 1/2 inch. You should always get your relaxer touch-ups between 4 and 6 weeks. Why is this? Because the difference in the texture from the chemically processed hair to the non-processed roots, that tension on the hair will cause the hair to snap where the old hair and the new hair meet. When your hair is chemically processed, whether it is a keratin treatment, a relaxer, bleach, hair color, you want to maintain consistent texture so the hair does not break. You probably noticed that I haven't applied any of the relaxer product to the front right 2 sections, and that's because I'm going to do another video where I compare relaxer products. Now, I love a creamy, consistent product that doesn't melt too soon without a lot of wax. That's how you can tell a good relaxer from a non-good relaxer. A lot of times the cheap relaxers, I'll just say it, a lot of times the cheap relaxers will have a lot of wax, and the wax is very heavy, and it takes a long time for it to melt and a long time for the chemical process to act inside the cortex layer because the wax is slowing it down. The key takeaway from this relaxer session is understanding how relaxers work. Our natural hair is a 4.5 to 5.5 on the pH scale. That's the pH level of hair naturally, 4.5 to 5.5. Relaxers come in at 12 to 16, okay? The one I'm using is a 15 pH on the scale. We need that high pH for the product to get in there, go through the cuticle layers, get into that cortex, and knock off some of those sulfur atoms. That is the bond reformation that happens that allows our hair to be straighter. Sodium hydroxide relaxers straighten the hair evenly from root to tip or wherever you place the sodium product. No-lie relaxers, potassium, calcium, lithium, guanidine, they do not. Those products leave the hair rough and the cuticle layer abraded. A virgin application, that's someone who has never had a relaxer. You want to apply 1 inch to 1/2 inch away from the scalp and also 1 inch to 2 inch from the ends depending on the hair health. You want to focus on the mid shaft, then you apply to the ends, then you apply to the scalp. When it's time for a root touch-up, you limit the relaxer application to the new growth hair only. You do not drag the relaxer product through the midshaft and ends. Those bonds have already been broken. When you apply relaxer product again, you break the few remaining bonds that are there, and the hair will just disintegrate. Getting a relaxer, whether it's lie or no lie, is akin to major surgery. So you want to limit what you do to that hair on the same day. If I'm going to do any kind of color on relaxed hair, it's going to be a demi-permanent color, and I'm going to wait a week at least between appointments. Like, I'm not going to give her a demi-permanent and a relaxer on the same day. She can get a semi-permanent, right? But she's not going to get anything that's more long-lasting. The majority of my business is hair color, so I don't really use a lot of relaxers, sodium or no lie. Because I use a lot of hair color, bleach, toners, highlights, beautiful blondes, right? You can't mix those with sodium hydroxide. Why? Because relaxers break bonds and bleach breaks bonds. So if you mix relaxer and bleach, you're going to get breakage. All of the bonds will break and the hair will disintegrate. So I switched over to the keratin treatments. They're far more healthier for the hair. Instead of destroying and breaking, the keratin treatments are adding to the hair, which makes them amazing and healthier. So I can do all kind of hair colors. After the bleach, what's missing is the keratin. So with the keratin treatment, I can get beautiful, cool blondes and healthy, shiny hair. I mean, I grew up with a relaxer. I wore a relaxer for like 20 years. And then I had a girl that I hired to work for me, and she turned me on to the keratin treatment. She did my hair. I was amazed. And that was 2011. I've been wearing a keratin treatment since 2011. But the keratin treatment is expensive. So for those clients who can't afford the keratin treatment and they still need to control their texture, I will go in with the sodium hydroxide relaxer. I get wonderful results. Now that I've broken and reshaped the disulfide bonds, I need to go in and finish the process. So I'm going to rinse with full force, kind of extra warm water. That's to make sure you rinse the chemical out of the hair. And then I'm going to shampoo with the Motions Neutralizing Shampoo. Now, as shampoos go, it's okay, but what our intent is to bring that pH level down. Remember, the relaxer is up there at 15, and our natural hair's pH is 4.5 to 5.5. So with the shampoo, we're going to remove that excess chemical, and we're going to bring the pH level of the hair back down to 4.5, 5.5. So after the Motions Neutralizer, we're going to go in with that K18 Peptide Prep Detox Shampoo. And thank God for modern technology. After we prep with the K18, I'm going to go in with the molecular hair repair treatment. Right after this shampoo right here, it is amazing. Brings the hair back to normal pH, the peptide prep. After that, I'm going to towel dry and get as much moisture out of the hair as possible. Make the hair damp. Then I'm going to spray this molecular repair hair mist. I'm going to let that sit for 4 minutes. And then right on top of that, I'm going to apply the leave-in molecular repair mask. I'm going to let that sit for 4 minutes. And then I'm going to go in and blow dry, right? I'm going to use an ionic blow dryer, and I'm going to use a flat iron at no more than 350 Fahrenheit. I'm going to finish with our nourishing lipid serum. If you remember back in one of those diagrams that I dropped, it talked about how all of the pigments and the keratin and the bonds, they're all intertwined within lipids in the hair shaft. And what our product does is it mimics those lipids, and it penetrates deep into the cortex. Look at her hair. It's so beautiful. It's so healthy. It's so shiny. It's so strong. It has so much body. I am passionate about textured hair care. It's a part of my DNA. It's something I've been doing since high school. I'm so happy to partner with the Beauty Wellness Hair Care Company. We can bring you product analysis, new techniques, scientific background on what's happening when you relax hair. Click the subscribe button if you want more. Give us a thumbs up. Come visit us on our platform at beautywellnesshaircare.com.